Well, good evening, everyone. First off, we can do a little bit better than that. Good evening, everyone. Good evening. There we go. I can feel the love in there right now. So first off, I just want to say how excited I am to be here with you guys again and share a little bit of the things that I learned as I was preparing some of the content for tonight's workshop. Like Livia said earlier, what we're going to do is going to be a little bit different. You'll have the questions at your tables, and instead of us just discussing it as a big group, what we're going to do is I'm going to give you guys a couple of minutes to discuss that amongst the small group, and then we'll come together as a large group and talk about some of those. Sound good? All right. So first off, everything that we're going to be covering today is in the book, The Gospel According to Spiritism, so I can't take any credit for the things that we're going to be talking about today, but tonight's topic is the good person, which is item number 3 in chapter 17 there. Now, before we begin, I do have to confess something to you guys. When Livia first came and gave me the topic for tonight's meeting, I was like, okay, the good person, I can do that. And then I went and opened chapter 17, which is titled Be Perfect. And immediately I said, whoa, now that's a whole different story. I don't know that I can speak to that. I might need 50 to 100 more incarnations before I can talk about that. But I'm happy to say that after going through a lot of the content, it's actually very enriching and fulfilling to know that a lot of us are already on that path. So let's go ahead and start off with the very first question. So is a good person a perfect person? So when we think about a good person, do we associate that with perfection? So what I would like you guys to do is to take a couple minutes, maybe 2 to 4 minutes, to kind of discuss that in your small group, and then we'll go ahead and come together and discuss that as a large group, okay? So I want to hear some of these thoughts, because you guys sound very quiet, so it seems like everybody's got the answer. Is that right, or do you guys need a couple more minutes? It was a yes or no. Well, let me hear some of your thoughts. What are your thoughts? Is a good person a perfect person? No, that's it? Just a very solid no?
If it was written the other way, is a perfect person a good person? You would say yes.
Okay, well, tell me why no. Why is the answer no? Huh?
Do you know a perfect person?
I know a lot of really great people, but I don't know a perfect person.
But you know good people.
But I know great people. There's only one. Yeah. So I think we can all agree on that, right? Like, we know a lot of really great people, but being a good person does not mean perfection. Does not mean that that person is perfect. So in the opening of chapter 17, right, which, again, the title of that chapter is Be Perfect. The opening of that chapter is a quote from Jesus that says, "Love your enemies, do good to those who hate you, and pray for those who persecute and slander you. For if you love only those who love you, what reward will you have? Do not the publicans do the same? If you greet only your brothers, what are you doing that is more than what others do? Do not the pagans also do the same? Therefore, be perfect as your heavenly Father is perfect." Now, we need to analyze that for a little bit, right? Because when we think about perfection, we know that God is perfect in all things. We know that He's the supreme intelligence and primary cause of all things, but we need to understand that when Jesus said this, he was very limited because the people during that time would not be able to understand that nuance. And so when we talk about perfection, well, if God is perfect, and we're talking about this perfection, if we were to be perfect, we would be exactly like him, right? And so we understand that that's not possible because he is the only one that is perfect. So when we're talking about perfection here, is that perfection relative to humanity, right? It's that perfection that we as humans have the ability to achieve, but it's never anything where we would be as perfect as God. We will become those pure spirits, but if we were to become just like God, well, then how can God be God and be the so powerful one? We would have that same power, right? So it's important that we understand here that when Jesus shared that was because people during that time did not have the knowledge, did not have the understanding to be able to comprehend what he meant. And so when we talk about that in our lives, it is that relative perfection, right? And so what it comes down to is that very first phrase. It is the love and the charity. Because in essence, in its broad definition, love and charity will entail all of the other virtues, right? It'll entail benevolence, indulgence, kindness, compassion for others. And so, are we okay with that? Does that make sense? All right. So, the very first sentence in item number 3, which is the item that we're going to be covering today, right? The good person, it says, truly good people are those who practice the law of justice, love, and charity in its greatest purity. So it sounds very simple, right? It sounds very basic. I think we can all understand that, okay, all I have to do is be just. I should love everyone, and I should practice some form of charity. But when it comes down to the action, we understand that it's not as easy as it sounds, right? So the one question I want you guys to discuss for a little bit now is, how do we know if we are on the right path of becoming a good person? Or if you already feel like you are a good person, what makes you feel that? Okay? So take a couple minutes and discuss that amongst your table, and I want to hear some of those answers in the larger group.
Something like that, but there are a lot.
Do unto others as you have them.
Give you guys one more minute. So I'm liking a lot of this dialogue, and I want to hear what your guys' thoughts are. And I know that it's a very short amount of time for such a complex question, but I want to hear some of your guys' thoughts.
I just hang out with her. out.
Just hanging out with the good people.
She's got-
Hey, makes sense.
Examine who you spend time with. That tells you a lot. That was one of my answers.
But what do you guys think? How do we know if we're on the right path? What are some things? How do we know?
Examine your tendencies.
Examine your tendencies, right? So one of the things that in the book it tells us is we need to question ourselves, right? That's the only way that we're going to know. And some of these questions are, have we done anything to violate the law of justice? So were we unfair to someone? Knowingly, right? We did it on purpose. Or have we done any evil? Have we done all of the good that we could? Have we willingly disregarded any opportunity to be useful? And those two kind of go hand in hand, right? Because when we think about that, we think about the skills and the God-given talents that we have. And so, did we have opportunities in which we could have utilized them, but we chose not to, right? And when we think about that, it's something that's very touching because we also have to keep in mind that we are responsible for the bad things that happen because of the good that we didn't do, right? And so a lot of times we might hear people saying, oh, I'm a good person because I don't hurt others. Well, not hurting others isn't enough. And we know that. We know that we need to take a step further and go out of our way to help others. And sometimes that is putting ourselves in uncomfortable situations because we know it's going to help somebody. It is going that extra mile because somebody needs the help. And we do it out of the kindness of our hearts. We do it out of love. And so, and last but not least, which I heard this at this table over here, so have we done to others everything we would like them to do to us? Right? So the golden rule. And a lot of us, we all know this. But it's okay. We understand that it's difficult to put some of these things into practice. But that is the one rule that we all know. When I teach the kids class and they're doing something that they know that they're not supposed to their colleague, we ask them, we say, hey, how should we treat each other? And if they're upset because they know that they're doing something wrong, they still know the answer. They say, we're supposed to treat everyone like we'd like to be treated. So we know, right? But it's okay. It's understandable to know that it is difficult. And so we're going to be talking a little bit about how we can help ourselves to help each other, right? Because we know that that's the only way that we're going to grow and evolve. Now, knowing that, what are some of the characteristics of a good person? So when you look at somebody and you consider them a good person, what are some of the characteristics that come to mind? So take a couple minutes to think about that one and discuss that amongst your groups, and we'll discuss that together.
So that would be humility.
Hey, I know, right? How about that? Grab the tissues. Really deep. So I'm hearing a lot of really good ones. What are some of the ones that you guys came up with? Kind, okay. So someone who's kind.
Humble.
Humble, okay. Yeah, somebody who's honest, right? Okay. Yeah, always ready to help.
Selfless.
Selfless, right? So being able to put others before themselves.
Somebody that respect others.
Okay, right? So somebody who's respectful towards others as well as towards themselves. Thoughtful, okay. I like it. Any other thoughts? No, you're doing great. Hey, there's so much great dialogue. I hate breaking you guys out from the great dialogue. I hear some really good, insightful conversations. What were some of the ones that you guys came up with?
I like she said compassion.
Okay, so somebody who's compassionate, right? I like it. What is it?
Tolerance.
Tolerance. Yeah. Now, all these things that we're naming, are they easy things for us to do? No, right? For some people, maybe.
It's hard.
But hey, for a lot of us, it's hard, right? It's having that understanding that the first step is the awareness, right? And I think we can all agree on that. The first step is knowing what we need.
Well, how much time can you spend being aware? At some point, you got to change.
Exactly.
That's my dilemma.
But hey, we're all here, right? We're all choosing to learn. We are putting ourselves out there to be able to practice.
It bothers you when eventually you start changing. That's true.
Yeah. It gets to that point where you feel the need to do something extra, right? And for us, for everyone, it'll be different levels because we all take different paths. We're all at different levels within our spiritual evolution. And so for some of us, it might be something that we realize right away. But to others, it might take some time. And when it comes to us being compassionate and kind, we also have to have that same feeling towards others to be able to understand that they're not at the same level yet.
And towards yourself.
And towards yourself. So here are some of the ones that are listed in the gospel. So people who hold no hatred, rancor, or any desire for vengeance, right? So people that have the ability to forgive, but also to forget, because they realize that they themselves will be forgiven according to that how they've forgiven others, right? So when it comes to this, we need to be a little bit more like Elsa from Frozen and just let it go, right? Just let it go. Forget about it. Forgive those people and forget about the fact that they've hurt us, because that is the true meaning of forgiveness, is when we provide them with another chance and we stop lingering on the past. But they also have indulgence towards others' weaknesses, right? Because again, they also know that they themselves need that indulgence. Because we're all here together. We're all here to learn. And so understanding that people will have those weaknesses are nothing other than just an opportunity for us to help them grow, and vice versa. They do not gloat over their wealth or their personal advantages. And when we talk about the wealth, we're not just talking about the material side of things, right? But when we think about our skills and the talents that we have, it is not bragging about those things, because we know that everything that has been given to us, we will be held accountable. And easily anything that has been given to us can also be taken away. So it's understanding how we can utilize those advantages, that wealth, in order to help others, but as well as to help ourselves. And last but not least, they never take pleasure in searching for defects in others, because we know that we are here to learn. We know that we are imperfect spirits. And so understanding that, we can always find the good. We can always find something positive in somebody. Sometimes it takes time, right? We have to be open to that idea. But we know that we can always find something. There's always something positive about someone. It is a matter of us taking the time and being open-minded and opening our hearts to be able to find that in those people. So also in the book it says, they do good for its own sake without expecting anything in return, and they repay evil with good. They defend the weak against the strong and always sacrifice their own interests to the interests of justice. Good people find their satisfaction in the benefits they spread around, the service they render, the happiness they promote, the tears they dry, and the consolation they provide to the afflicted. And so their first impulse is to think about other people before thinking about themselves, right? The selfish, on the other hand, they will calculate their profits and their losses with everything, right? I know of someone who used to literally keep a journal of things that people did to her. And I will admit, a couple times I thought about stealing the journal in hopes that it would help her get past some of that stuff, right? And we know people like this. We know people that hold on to things. And not only it inhibits them from moving on and evolving, but it also takes away that opportunity for another chance, right? And it's hard. Like, it's okay. It is hard. We know that. But I think the first step, again, it is that awareness, that willingness to get better and to evolve. But one of the things that I love the most about this is the part that it says that they find satisfaction in the benefits they spread around. So last week, when I was teaching the kids' class here on Monday, I was teaching the second cycle, and their classes from 7 to 10, and we were talking about giving things to others and being able to help others. And one of the little girls raised her hand, and she asked, why is it that we feel so much better when we give somebody something rather than when we receive something? And to have a 10-year-old ask you one of those questions is just so enriching and so fulfilling, because although she didn't know the reason why she felt that, it's because it's something that it's hard to explain, right? It's just something that you feel from the bottom of your heart. And sure enough, the rest of the kids all chimed in and started sharing how during Christmas they went through their toys and they were able to give it to other kids, and they were just so happy. A couple of the kids even mentioned that they got to personally deliver their toys to the other kids that were not as fortunate to be able to have those toys. And to hear that from 7, 8, 9, 10-year-olds, it's just truly amazing, because again, it's not one of those things that you can explain. It's just one of those things that you feel within your heart. And there's nothing more gratifying than to know that you were able to help someone, to impact someone in a positively way. It's amazing. At that point, I almost said, you guys can teach the class now, I'm done. I don't need to be here. I was like, this is it. But these are people that treat others because they know that we are brothers and sisters in Christ, right? These are people that choose to see beyond race, religion, color, because we know that none of that matters. What matters is who we are as individuals and what we do to help others around us. And a lot of us already have that. Right? We might not do it every day, or we might not do it every single chance that we have, but we are doing it. And it's important that we cherish and we value even the small amounts that we're doing, because we have to cherish that. We have to celebrate the little accomplishments that we're making. One of those characteristics is also having faith, right? Now, it's important that we highlight something here. When we're talking about good people and we're talking about faith as being one of those characteristics, it's important that we highlight that we're not saying that people who don't have faith are not good people. That's not what we're saying. Because I am sure that all of us have met amazing people who do not believe in God, right? Because our beliefs or our religion does not define who we are. Our actions do, right? So it's not being here at the Spiritual Center that will make me a good person, just like me standing in a garage will not make me a car. It's my actions that will do that, right? But it's true. It's true. So it's important that we highlight that. This is just one of the characteristics, but it is by all means not saying that people who don't have faith are not good people. I've met amazing people who do not believe in God, but the actions, the things that they did to other people, were all things that were taught to us by Jesus. And so when we talk about faith in God and his goodness and his justice and wisdom, it is having that comfort, knowing that everything that happens for a reason, and everything that happens with God's consent. And that his endless mercy and his endless love will always provide us with multiple chances, multiple opportunities to better ourselves. And it's okay. It's that comfort to know that if we mess up now, we will have other chances. We will have endless opportunities to be able to get it right. Because we know that we're not going to become 100% good people. We're not going to become that pure spirit in one incarnation. That'd be great, but then again, would it be fair? Would it be just? Would we have all the time that we need to be able to help the people that we want to help? And so it's being able to understand that everything that happens for a reason. And the trials and atonements that we have are there to better ourselves, to redeem ourselves. And then, of course, when Jesus said, "Come unto me, all you who suffer and who are overburdened, and I will comfort you," right? And I think when we think about that, it's, again, understanding that God is affectionate, right? He's our Father. And so he will give us all of those chances. We will get the ability to redeem ourselves and to right our wrongs. Now, when we think about this, right, a lot of times the way that we connect with God, or the way that we think about these things, is through prayer, right? Prayer is kind of that support for the soul, but prayer alone isn't enough, because I have to believe. Right? I have to believe in his love, in his mercy. And if I don't, then prayer are just words. So it's important that we think that, because when we pray, it needs to be something that's from the heart. It needs to be that connection that we have with God. In the gospel, on chapter 5, which is the chapter titled "Blessed are the Afflicted," it says, "God does not put heavy burdens on weak shoulders. The burden is proportional to the strength, just as the reward will be proportional to the resignation and courage. The reward will be greater than the affliction is painful." Which I think it's just such an amazing short paragraph, right? It's so touching. And although we know a lot of this, oftentimes it can be hard for us to remember this, right? Because we might be going through something in our lives that makes us feel like it's only happening to us, or why is it happening to us? But when we think about this, we understand that, again, his love will guide us in the right direction. And although we might be going through a tough time, we need to have that faith that we're not going to be let down. And as brothers and sisters, it is also our duty to be able to remind each other of that. So if there's ever a time where I am blinded and I can't see this, I hope that somebody else next to me will be able to show me that. And vice versa, right? Because we're here for each other. It is through helping each other that we're also helping ourselves, and vice versa. So it's important that we keep that at the forefront of our minds, but also that we share that with each other. This is a quote also in the gospel from a French bishop that says, "It is better to have less virtues with modesty than more with pride. For it is through pride that successive humanities have been lost. And it is through humility that they will someday be redeemed." And again, it's just when we're talking about all of these virtues, right? We want it to be virtues that we're practicing because we're practicing them from the heart, not because we're just doing something. Because if we're just doing something, we have all of these virtues, but we still have that pride. We still feel the need to say, "Oh, I am doing all of these things." Versus I can have a very limited amount of virtues, but I am doing them from the heart. And so they're a lot more meaningful and a lot more impactful in that way. Now, how do we find the good in people, right? Because this we know all of this. We know what we have to do. We know what those characteristics are. But how do we find the good in people? And so it's important that we slow down. We take the time to get to know people. We should not be judging people. We say a lot that we should not judge a book by its cover, right? But how many times have we known people, or have we thought that somebody didn't like us, but you never even met the person? You just knew of them, right? I think we can all think of somebody like that. I know one of my best friends from high school, we did not like each other. And it finally came a day where we said, why do you not like me? And it was that, what do you mean? It's not that I don't like you. I've never not liked you. And it's that weird thing where we assume things, right? Or we think that people are judging us by the way that they look at us. And immediately we assume something, we create something in our minds. But it's because we're not taking the time to know them. We're not taking the time to know them for who they are. And instead, a lot of times we make this perception based on what other people say about them or the way that they look, and we don't take the time to know them for the person that they are. And a lot of times we miss out on opportunities to get to know incredible individuals because we're assuming things and we're not taking the time to know them for who they are. We always want to find something positive about them, and we talked about this a little bit earlier, right? Sometimes it can be difficult, especially if it's somebody who we do not necessarily get along with. It can be difficult to find something nice about that person. But if we just take the time and we look at them as one of our brothers or sisters, there will always be something, whether it be a virtue or a characteristic or even something in their appearance. If you can't find a virtue, even something as simple as they have nice eyes, right? That at least that is your starting point to open up your mind and open up your heart to what that person potentially has to offer. We try to look for the intention rather than the action itself. So what we mean by that is a lot of times there are people who we might not necessarily be close with that do things and we assume what they meant, right? And instead, we look at just the action rather than thinking of what their intention was. Because chances are they had really good intentions, but because their actions might have come off differently, we think that they didn't mean well. And so look for that positive intent. Believe that the reason why people are doing things is because they mean well. And it's such a silly thing to say, right? But when we think like that, one, we will always look for the good in people, but two, it'll always give that person the opportunity to make things right if they felt like what they did wasn't the right thing. So always look for that positive. There's always something positive that we can find in people. Now, we're talking a lot about how to help others, how to do great things with others, right? But we can't forget about ourselves because it starts with us. I need to be able to help myself before I can help somebody else. For those of you who have been in airplanes, when they're talking about the emergency exit and all of that, what do they say? Grab your mask, put your mask on, and then you can help somebody else. Because if you're running out of oxygen, there's no way that you're going to be able to help somebody else, right? So we need to be kind. We need to think about these things for ourselves. And that's not being selfish, because we do need to love ourselves. We do need to have all of those characteristics towards ourselves to then help others. So what I want you guys to do is to take a couple minutes. This is the last question, I promise. I want you guys to take a couple minutes to talk about how can we be good to ourselves. So take a couple minutes to discuss that one, and I want to hear some of the answers.
Nice to meet you.
So let me hear some of these thoughts. I know you guys are having some very insightful conversations, and I feel so bad in breaking it. But I want to hear some of these thoughts. What do you guys think? How can we be good to ourselves?
Forgive ourselves?
Yeah, forgive ourselves, absolutely. What else?
Understand our limitations.
Yeah, understanding our limitations, right? Because who do understand our limitations better than ourselves here on earth, right? Like, obviously God knows all of that, but who better to understand those here on earth than ourselves? Yeah. What else?
Be patient, you know,
Yeah.
because you're gonna like make mistakes.
Yeah, be patient. We're going to make mistakes. And I love that you guys highlighted a lot of these, right? So having the ability to forgive ourselves, to understand that we are going to make mistakes. We are not perfect. If we were, we would not be here. We would probably be in a more advanced planet, like Jupiter or something. We would not be here. So understanding that it's okay. Be okay with making the mistake. But forgive yourselves for the mistake. Just like we're expected to forgive others, right? It starts with us. And love yourself, right? How can we expect to love others if we can't love ourselves? It has to start there. Be patient, be compassionate, right? And remind ourselves that above all things, right, if we forget everything else, let's remind ourselves that we are all God's children. And because we are His children, we are a part of His creation, we are inherently good. We are. And sometimes it's that little seed, it's there. It just needs time. It needs a little bit of cultivating before it starts to flourish. But it's there. We are good. We do a lot of these things already. And so let's not be too hard on ourselves, right? When we're talking about a lot of these characteristics, a lot of these virtues, we have to have that same compassion, that same love, that same patience that we have for our neighbors. We have to have it for ourselves. Because I'll tell you, good people also make bad choices. We do. And it's okay. It's okay for us to make those because we know that at the end of the day, we will have other chances. We will have other opportunities. So what I'd like to leave you guys is with probably one of my favorite quotes, which is from Mother Teresa. She said, "We ourselves feel that what we are doing is just a drop in the ocean, but the ocean would be less because of that missing drop." And what we mean by that is every small thing that we do, don't take that for granted. Don't think that you're not doing enough. Can we always do more? Yes, absolutely. We can always do more. But we also need to appreciate every single thing that we do. Every small step that we take towards the evolution of our spirits should be something that we are cherishing. Every small moment, if we are practicing on our patience, if there's somebody that came up to us and we were able to hold our composure, cherish that, embrace that, because we have to be able to celebrate the little things. It's the little things that will keep us going. And even if we have a small good deed that we do, it should not go unnoticed. We should understand that, yes, it might be small, but it's one more thing that we are doing to be able to help someone else. And another great characteristic of a good person is the ability to listen, right? So for that, thank you guys for listening and being such engaging tonight. Okay? Thank you.